Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast.
Today, we're taking a look at OS Therapies.
Right, a biopharma company that's been popping up a bit. You shared some info, and we want to pull out what's really important here for you listening.
Yeah, we've got sources covering, well, everything from recent news, market stuff, the industry context.
Potential risks, opportunities too.
And exactly. And even what might move the stock. We'll hit financials, competition, future outlook, the whole picture, basically.
Consider it your quick guide to OS Therapies.
Yeah.
So let's start there. What have they actually been doing recently?
Okay, so big news is they've requested an FDA meeting. That's for Q2 2025.
And that's about OSTHER2, their main drug candidate for osteosarcoma.
That's the one. They want to talk about surrogate endpoints. The goal here is getting breakthrough therapy designation and ultimately accelerated approval.
Surrogate endpoints. So like earlier signs the drug is working instead of waiting years for survival data.
Precisely. It's a key step if they want to move towards a rolling BLA submission.
BLA being the Biologics License Application.
Right. And they're aiming for conditional approval possibly by late 2025. That's pretty ambitious.
Conditional approval.
Okay.
And we should also be looking out for the full Phase 2b trial results.
Yep. Expected in June 2025. Crucially, this includes data from a synthetic control arm.
Which the FDA specifically asked for. Why is that synthetic arm significant?
Well, it essentially lets them compare their results against historical data for similar patients. It can, speed things up potentially, maybe need fewer new patients in the control group.
Makes sense, especially for a rare disease like osteosarcoma.
The FDA asking for it suggests they're open to these kinds of, let's say, innovative trial designs when the need is high.
Okay, beyond OSTHR2, what else? They did their IPO in 2024.
They did, and now they've announced plans to acquire some immunotherapy assets.
From Ayala Pharmaceuticals, based on Listeria monocytogenes.
That's right. It's an interesting move. Suggests they're looking to broaden their pipeline beyond just the one lead candidate.
Diversification.
Yeah, building a broader oncology presence. These Listeria-based therapies are a different approach, leveraging the immune system. Could be synergistic down the line.
And there's more strategic stuff, too. Something about an antibody-drug conjugate platform.
Ah, yes. Their TADC platform that stands for Tunable Antibody Drug Conjugate. They're evaluating it for potential partnerships.
ADCs are definitely a hot area in cancer therapy. Why tunable?
It implies more control over delivering the chemo payload directly to cancer cells, potentially reducing side effects on healthy tissue. That's a big deal.
So aiming for better targeting, fewer side effects, and looking for partners suggests they think it has value beyond their own immediate needs.
Exactly. It could be a way to bring in resources, validation, maybe non-dilutive funding, too.
Okay, let's switch gears to financials. They reported a loss in 2024.
Yes, a net operating loss of about $10.9 million, or 0.88 per share. But a good chunk of that was tied to IPO expenses.
That's pretty typical for a company going public. What about their cash situation?
This is important. Their current cash reserves are projected to fund operations into mid-2026.
That gives them a decent runway, doesn't it? Enough time to hit some of these milestones we're talking about.
It does. It gives them breathing room to get that Phase 2b data out, push forward with the BLA submission without, immediately needing to raise more cash and potentially dilute shareholders.
Okay, back to OSTHR2 for a second. You mentioned osteosarcoma. This drug could be one of the first new therapies in decades for preventing recurrence, right?
That's a really critical point. Metastatic osteosarcoma recurrence is a huge problem, high relapse rate.
So a significant unmet medical need.
Absolutely. If OSTH2 actually works in preventing that recurrence, it would be a major step forward for patients.
And tied to that BLA submission, there's this potential priority review voucher, the PRV.
Ah, the PRV, yes. If they get their BLA approved for a rare pediatric disease like osteosarcoma often is, they could get one.
And these PRVs are valuable. I've heard figures over $100 million.
Historically, yes. They can be sold to other companies who want to speed up FDA review for their drugs. So it's a potential source of significant non-dilutive cash.
Non-dilutive meaning they get cash without issuing more stock. That could be huge for them.
Transformative, potentially. Or they could use it themselves on another drug later, but selling it seems more likely in the near term.
They also held an analyst day recently, April 7th at the NYSE. I assume that was about building confidence ahead of all this.
You'd think so. It's a chance for management to lay out the strategy, present data, answer tough questions from analysts, build that transparency, especially crucial before big regulatory events.
Okay, but it's not all guaranteed, is it? There are risks. Conditional approval isn't full approval.
Definitely not. First, the FDA has to accept their surrogate endpoints as being reasonably likely to predict clinical benefit. That's a hurdle.
And even if they get conditional approval.
They'll still need to run phase 3 confirmatory trials after the BLA to prove the long-term benefit, so the initial green light comes with strings attached.
And financially, we noted the loss. Even with cash into mid-2026, they are kind of banking on that PRV monetization for funding down the line, aren't they?
That seems to be a key part of the plan, yes. If the BLA gets delayed, or they don't get a PRV, or can't sell it for a good price, well, then they might need other funding.
Which could mean dilution.
Potentially, yes. That's a risk investors need to weigh.
But on the flip side, the opportunities are there. That PRV sale, if it happens, is significant.
Huge potential boost. And the Ayala acquisition gives them a way to quickly diversify. That looks like a smart strategic play to reduce reliance on just OSTHAR2.
Right, spreading the risk. And the TADC platform partnership possibilities are another plus.
If they can land a good deal, yeah. That could bring in cash, validate the technology, lots of positives.
How does this fit into the broader industry? ADCs are trendy, as we said.
Their focus aligns with that trend. You have other players like Iovance, Incyte, active in innovative cancer therapies, though maybe not osteosarcoma specifically.
So being specialized in osteosarcoma, is that a strength or weakness?
Bit of both, probably. Strength is focus, expertise, maybe a clearer regulatory path in an underserved area. Weakness is a smaller initial market compared to, say, lung or breast cancer.
So expanding beyond that niche, like with the Ayala assets, seems important long-term.
Agreed. It shows foresight for growth.
Let's look a bit deeper at the financials again. Clinical stage, so no significant revenue yet.
Right. The consensus EPS forecast for 2025 is negative, around Medicare $0.31 per share. That reflects the ongoing R&D spend.
And you mentioned debt to equity.
Yeah, it's notable. They've used debt financing, and with negative retained earnings from accumulated losses, the ratio is up there. Plus, negative free cash flow.
Which is normal for a company at this stage, burning cash on development.
Exactly. They also did a $6 million private placement recently, which helps shore up that near-term cash position. Seems like active financial management to reach those milestones.
Who's running the show? Paul Ramnes is chairman and CEO.
Yes, he led them through 2024, which is a big year with the IPO.
And insider ownership looks pretty high, around 25%.
Oh, about 24.83%, yeah. That's quite substantial. Often seen as a positive sign management's interests are aligned with shareholders. They have skin in the game.
Suggests belief in the company's potential from the inside.
You could interpret it that way, yes.
So looking ahead, the big flashing light is the BLA submission for OSTHER2 in 2025.
That's the main catalyst everyone's watching. The Analyst Day in April was likely prep for that.
But the risks remain regulatory uncertainty, FDA decisions.
Always. And just general market conditions for biotech can swing things, too. Those are external factors they can't control.
Right. Now, our sources didn't give specific analyst ratings or track social media chatter.
But you can bet investors are talking about the BLA timeline, what that PRV might be worth, the cash burn rate, especially with the June data release coming up.
And the usual caveat applies. Be careful with unverified info online.
Absolutely. Stick to official company news, filings, reputable sources. Social media can be noisy.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. OS Therapies. It's an interesting setup. Clinical stage, focused on osteosarcoma, a high unmet need.
Big milestones coming up, especially on the regulatory front with OSTHR2.
Plus those strategic moves to broaden the pipeline with the Ayala assets and the TADC platform.
But like most biotechs at this point, definite risks, regulatory hurdles, financial pressure.
The PRV potential is a major wild card, though. And success with the clinical trials, those could be huge drivers.
Definitely a company to keep an eye on as they navigate, the next year or so. Critical steps ahead.
What really stands out to you from all this?
For me, it's that combination, the clear unmet need, the near-term potential catalyst with the BLA, and those diversification efforts, but balanced against the very real possibility that things don't go smoothly with the FDA or funding. It highlights the classic biotech risk-reward profile.
Yeah, that sums it up well. What other questions does this bring up? For me, it's watching how the market digests that June data, and then if they get the PRV, what's the strategy? Sell it. How quickly?
Good questions. The execution on those next steps will be telling.
Absolutely. Well, that brings us to the end of this look at OS Therapies. We encourage you, as always, to subscribe, like, and drop a comment with your thoughts on the company or the wider biotech space.